So I don't know what the protocol is usually for a joint meeting. I guess from the county court's perspective, I'll call the county side to order. And I don't know, Leah, if you need to call the port side to order.
Well, I can call the port side to order and for the joint meeting.
Great.
Sounds good to me.
I think we're all in order.
We're all in order. So where do you guys want to start?
I think from my perspective in reading the IGA and the situation where we're at, this has been kind of a long, winding road getting to here. And I think it sounds to me like basically the most important thing that we need to do today is to discuss a joint project that we can agree on so that then we can move forward, sign the IGA, and get a project that we can be very successful with. So I think that is really maybe where the discussion needs to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fine. Fine with us. Do you guys, I mean, we can get into the rest of it. Are you guys, like, will you be getting back to us on any changes for the rest of the document, or kind of where are you at on that piece?
Well, I do have a couple of changes to suggest, but a lot of that is really dependent on how developed we can get a project. It's those changes are dependent on how much we can solidify exactly what the port responsibilities are going to be under this joint project. So that said, I suppose then the what it boils down to is if we can get a project worked out, then those changes should be very few.
Okay.
So how do we want to start the discussion? Do we want, Catherine has made a list with some ideas on it. Do you guys have some ideas already in mind?
I think let's start with Catherine's, because at least I didn't have anything specific when we talked about it. So I don't know if the commissioners did, but I'm open.
Yeah, I think we're looking for the port to give us some feedback on what your projects are and what you'd like to see happen.
Okay, Catherine, do you want to talk about the joint project suggestions that we have?
So what I wanted to say too is these weren't just Catherine's ideas. These were discussed at the port meeting last month. And so Jeff, if I missed something, hop in, or Leah or Gib, hop in on what I may have missed, but I just made a list this morning to make sure we have it. So we can go from there. So what we had talked about at the last port meeting was basically, it's not a huge sum of money. I mean, it's a good sized sum of money, but it's not one that's going to take a decent sized project all the way from start to finish. So some of the things that came up was that there's infrastructure on the mesa. There's two possible companies that might be going in there, Painted Hills and maybe Olympic Provisions, that are similar. And do we need to have any water and sewer improvements on those roads or internet installation in that? Some of possibly it would go there. The next infrastructure need would be at Willow Creek. Jeff mentioned that there is a company that's interested in being at Willow Creek, which does not have water. So it would have to either be figure out a water source, if that's a well, or if there's some way it can come out of the river, which I don't know if that's possible. Also electricity to there, and septic, some sort of wastewater system and electricity. And then the other things we had that actually I added on, I don't know if we touched on them at the meeting, was the airports. The Arlington airport needs the runway paved, and the Condon airport would really like to get the city water run to the airport with possibly a fueling station installed. And I think the two airport projects, which I know Pat has had that information floating around, and I think I sent it to Jeff, and Gib had it because he's part of the act. It could possibly be combined with an ODOT Connect grant. on the airport projects. So those are the ones that I just wrote down just to make sure we had some of them kind of mapped out. And even though they're still vague, I don't know how detailed you want those agreements to be if it's for infrastructure. Because we also have to realize any project that comes in that's going to locate either at the Mesa or at Willow Creek, it's going to have some environmental studies done. It's going to have engineering, permitting, anything else. So did you want to add anything on the Willow Creek, Jeff?
Not really on Willow Creek, other than I will be sending out email. I just talked to Justin Long again. He's the contact with Green Bear Energy, who some of you, I think, or if not all of you, are familiar with at least what they're doing and who I've talked to. He's going to be in town on September the 3rd here in Arlington to basically give a presentation as to what they're wanting to do, where they're coming in with already financing and money and investors. This is be like their third time to do this, where they come in and do this green energy. They set up a hydrogen plant. They run solar panels to help facilitate the plant, and then they are looking at perhaps a data center up on the Mesa. They're really interested in the rail and the highway right there at Willow Creek. And they've ran their own numbers, and they don't feel like they need to barge stuff to the extent that then that would really make it easier work for certainly the tribes as far as putting anything down there. We don't really have to go into the water, so to speak. And so, yeah, so September 3rd, I'll be sending that out to, well, certainly everybody who's on this call right now, anybody who wants to come to that meeting on the 3rd, because they've got, I can't really go into it right now because he told me it's confidential to the extent that they're about to probably work out a deal with another big hydrogen outfit that he'll talk about on that Friday, because by then I think it'll be locked in to where they're going to be doing a joint sort of project together and merging together that then will be part of this, So they've got plans also for housing development plans and things of that nature here, because, they don't want to just bring in workers, not have a place to put them. They've even got investors and plans for that. They've gone so far as to even talk Pacific Power to talk about how they want to run the power there from Willow Creek under the freeway, under the 84 there, instead of trying to go over stuff like that. So they've got money, they know what they're doing, and they really like the area. So that's where I am with Willow Creek. Just so we're all on the same page, though, I wanted to mention Olympia, Catherine. I talked to Ryan again yesterday from Business Oregon. Right now they're only interested in shuttle. So that's not us. We don't have anything to do with that. The port does. So, and I talked to Ryan about that, but he and I talked about some other ideas yesterday that he's really interested in working with us here at the port. But I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page, knowing that Olympia is right now only interested in shuttler, unless show them some other stuff and convince them.
So in listening to that, Jeff, it sounds like possibly the hydrogen group is willing to put the electricity and that stuff into that area. And maybe we shouldn't spend our money on that. Maybe it would make more sense, since they're going to use the Mesa also, and we have some other folks interested in that maybe the Mesa would be more of the priority between those two.
Yeah, perhaps if you want to get that more, even further paved and just sort of infrastructurally like ready to go. I mean, it's already, as far as power and water and sewer goes, I mean, I know it's kind of ready, but, aesthetically and certainly as far as accommodations go, getting road improvements up there, that could be things. Certainly with the airport, especially if we end up with Painted Hills. I've talked to Gabrielle and her interest in being able to just fly their product right out of Arlington there to, Portland or Seattle or wherever,
Okay.
Certainly something. And but yeah, I mean, I think that's what's going to happen on the 3rd when Justin comes from Green Bear. We'll get a better idea of what they need from us and what they expect from us. But yeah, I mean, all this stuff he's been doing with the power company and stuff, they're doing on their own. Same with the solar energy field. Like we, the port, do not have property large enough for what they're wanting to do with the solar energy field. So they've been talking to private individuals around the county who have land in maybe acquiring a big enough space for the solar field. They really like Willow Creek for the actual hydro facility itself. Certainly because they've got this new way in which he's talking about shipping it on pods, on trucks there right off the 84 interstate there. So,
Okay.
I'm really looking forward to that meeting, and that's why I want to get all you guys there and anybody who really feels like they should be there. If anybody you think needs to be there, because that way we just get this all in one big presentation. Because he's out of British Columbia, so he's coming down specifically for it.
So what do the rest of you guys think on in terms of this, maybe focusing on the Mesa more than Willow Creek? Thoughts?
I definitely think that's probably the best way to apply this particular funding for a couple of reasons. And one of them is to get the old IGAs cleaned up. If we can spend the money on that and really get some stuff in place that will incentivize, some possible business to come in. And I guess my question is, maybe it's a Ruben question, at what point in all this do we, and Elizabeth's talked to the legal for the county, does this become solidified enough, or that we've done what we need to do to satisfy the old IGAs and be moving on with a new one?
Well, that's just up to us. When we get to an agreement on the new one, then that takes care of the old ones.
Yeah, I agree in the idea that any type of infrastructure that we do just enhances any other project that we're trying to bring in. We talk about the airports, but the City of Arlington owns the airport, and not who owns the City of Condon does not own Condon Airport.
It's state owned.
I think improvements at the airport is going to make a big difference to us as well. But
Well, and I think we can use those Connect Oregon grants towards that airport project. Because like Catherine said, the money that we have available, we can stretch it as far as we can to get as much done as we can, but it's going to limit us to what we can, really do. We're not going to be able to build a building or.
Right.
Well, if we do the infrastructure at the Mesa, even if we don't close the deal with anybody, with the current deals, we still have something to attract somebody else.
Right, exactly.
It's a long-term thing, not just a one time.
Yeah, it's absolutely the best place to go with it for whatever may come along. We're not necessarily tying it to a project that's named like Painted Hills. We're just we're making a Gilliam County improvement to get some business in, and I think that's the most logical place is the Mesa itself.
Okay.
I'm comfortable with that. I think maybe it might be helpful. I don't know if this is something maybe Jeff can put together, but because you kind of alluded to, some of the stuff is already taken care of. And, obviously if it's a road, the county, we have resources that we can help with that. But I think it might be helpful to kind of get a sense of like what's actually there and what's needed. Because maybe if most of the infrastructure is already there, then partly that's paving the airport up there too. I mean, that's part of that whole complex. So, and the other thing I just hope that we're looking at is let's try to leverage this as match to bring in, whether it's ODOT or the ARPA funds that we're getting the notice of funding opportunities for, or whatever. I just feel like, I'm on board with the Mesa, but I think it would be helpful to try to get a lay of the land of what's actually needed. If water and sewer are there, is it electricity? Is it fiber? What is it that we need to be delivering, or just fixing the road even? So
I think you're exactly right. I think we need to get a real defined idea of what we need to do, because there is some water and sewer up there. The road into there, Dewey just recently paved.
There's going to be quite a little bit of road where county ends that needs to be done up there that I think if I remember right, the initial cost that Dewey kind of estimated, which will be a rough estimate, is maybe $250,000 worth of work
Okay.
to complete that through that whole area.
Well, and I think, Elizabeth, you are exactly right. That's why I think it's so important that we're looking at these grants that are out there, because we have a set number, we have a set amount of money that we have to work with, but that's not to say that we can't go after these grants and make our project more complete by getting this additional money.
So also too is if it is going to be something at the Arlington airport, what kind of commitment? I don't want to overcomplicate this, but the city of Arlington owns it. So we've got to figure out how they're going to fit into this partnership. Or are we thinking that this agreement, the project, will basically say infrastructure improvements of the Mesa, and do kind of like what the city of Condon has done over the last 9+ years on our infrastructure grant that we got. And that every year the port just reports on what they've accomplished up there. I mean, how do you guys foresee, because right now it's kind of vague what is needed. How does the court see this going out? And I guess too is I need to know, did the court have a project in mind that they were thinking of, not just what the port has presented to them?
I didn't, honestly. And the way I could see this maybe working is I think if probably Jeff, sorry to keep throwing this on you, but I think you might have a better sense of what's up there, is almost like a punch list. I don't know if that would make sense. So like, here's first priority is, the road needs to be paved all the way in there or whatever. Cause I feel like the Connect Oregon grant, we definitely are going to need the city to be on board, because I'm assuming they would need to be the applicant probably. So I don't necessarily want to tie our agreement to the city of Arlington's being willing to participate. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's overcomplicating it. So maybe it's not the actual airport as part of our agreement. Maybe it's everything else, but we have sort of this understanding that the overall vision for where we're going includes the airport, and that the county will try to help be supportive in going after Connect Oregon grants and other things, so that it's a we've got every tool up there that's possible. I don't know how the commissioners feel about that, but that's kind of my take. I'm not sure that.
No, I don't think that the airport itself and paving the airport, it's going to be multi-million-dollar project probably.
2.4 million, Pat. Yeah, we've had it looked at, 2.4 mil.
So these funds are not going to do anything for that, but it's the area around it and getting into the rest of the Mesa, and the potential properties are there that we could do something with some other industry, I think is more where I'm thinking.
And then doesn't that make the airport more accessible to the grants when we say, well, here we are.
Probably.
We have an airport that isn't usable, but we have all this other stuff that could use it. That would just help acquire those grants that would be needed.
Yeah, well,
that would help the city to go after those grants if we had that stuff in place, because I actually had tried to call Mayor Buffton before the meeting, because I knew this was going to come up, because the airport is owned by the city and I wasn't able to get a hold of him. But it might be a way to really leverage the city towards getting this done also. Might really give us an avenue to push that a little bit, for lack of a better word. So I think you're right. Yep.
Is there a master plan for the Mesa, Jeff? Like, I know we have like a 20-year plan for a water and sewer system. Is there anything like that on the Mesa, that already has kind of some punch list items pulled together?
It really doesn't. I mean, other than we've got the structures we already have up there. We've got water, sewer, we have fiber up there and everything. So from a infrastructure standpoint, it's really, it's rocking and rolling. We had the industrial site readiness certification done on it and everything like that. Yeah. Environmental impact studies and stuff. So
when did they put fiber up there? I'm not sure.
2 years ago.
if that went in when the fiber project down here, I don't remember them ever running fiber up there, but that doesn't mean they didn't. But
yeah, it's up there because in situ use like all of our tenants use it in situ, and Alpine there at the Flex building use it and stuff. So yeah, it's up there. I want to say I remember Peter saying maybe like two years ago, maybe it got put up there, 2-3.
maybe because he was kind of working with the Arlington TV. I can find out if they were.
Yeah, because he was sitting on that board with John and stuff. So yeah. But it's up there. So as far as like an infrastructure standpoint, it's really, I mean, what I would say is kind of what we talked about, is just making it more accessible, getting those roads really, from gravel to sort of paved to where they go, where people need them and want them to go, and then that airport project, certainly, that's, I mean, like I said, we've had it looked at. It's 2.4 million to pave it. So, I mean, and that could be something totally different. Through the state.
Well, Connect Oregon that Leah was talking about addresses, ports and I can't remember. There's 3 things on it, but airports was part of it, and it's a big one. I mean, I think that's a place that everybody really needs to zero in on for the paving the airport itself, and whatever work needs to be done in Condon too. And I think that is going to be kind of targeted at some rural airport stuff too.
Yeah, it addresses multimodal, marine, rail, aviation, public transportation, and pedestrian and bicycle even. And there's 46 million available to tap into.
When's that due? Isn't that due pretty soon?
The grant opens September 15th and closes October 29th.
Okay.
So we would have to get pretty busy on it.
And is there a match requirement on that? Do you know?
I don't see anything right here initially, but I wouldn't be surprised, but we can look into that.
Because
30% required match for projects.
30%?
Yeah.
So,
What's that? 800,000? 2.4?
720.
120? That's less than 10.
My calculator can't do the math.
Yeah, 720,000 is the match on that. I ask only because if the infrastructure is there, and Jeff, when you say that it's there, like, is it just to the industrial park, or is it actually, would there, like, if any of the additional or any of the parcels and plots, are they all, like, would we need to extend it into the industrial park, or is it pretty much just done? Because if so, maybe
it's basically just right off the road. So all those properties that the port owns, just right off that main road there, where we have our buildings and stuff. It's literally just right off the road there. And honestly, I don't even know if the city RV park, what they're set up with. I'm pretty sure they have the fiber as well there. But honestly, yeah, it's just right off the road. So for example, if let's say the Woolery becomes a reality someday, we're going to need to extend that just up the road to them and things of that.
So every lot doesn't have water and sewer.
No,
Not all the lots that the port owns do, so.
All the lots the port owns. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But I think there's some, you got to consider that you don't even know where that's going to go until somebody comes in and puts a project in. You've got it up there close, but whatever industry happened to come in and what their needs are going to define how you finish that up. And we're not going to know that until there's somebody there. And I mean, what Liz is saying, and obviously that's not enough funds, but if you were matching on the airport paving, using the funds as a match on the airport paving, and we could get, something like that to go through, we're a little short, but still that would be huge.
Yeah. So what if so let me I am talking off the top of my head. This might be a bad idea, but I'm just going to throw it out there anyway.
There are no bad ideas.
None.
So what if we, rather than really try to nail down the addendum right now, because I feel like the airport is really contingent on the Connect Oregon grant coming through. What if we decided as a group that we would try to put together a strong application for the Connect Oregon grant? If it falls through, then maybe we reconvene and look at a plan B.
Okay.
But if it succeeds, then that money could go, and we could then wrap up the addendum and have that money going as match for the paving project. But if that falls through, then obviously maybe we look at the Willow Creek instead as a sort of backup. If the infrastructure is already where it needs to be at Mesa, then it sounds like the next industrial park we might want to look at is Willow Creek.
Yeah, I think the one thing it does leave out is the road portion of the Mesa, but I don't think that's that's not an unsurmountable thing to look at, because it's not going to cost as much as the funds that we have available. And it's also something I think the county can look at it on an in-kind contribution and
Right.
do it at, cost and not. So.
Right. That's another partnership the county needs to be a part of. That.
Right.
I guess on the Connect Oregon grant, so we have roughly 500,000. Where are we going to get the other match money?
Well,
That'll be for discussion later. See where we're at.
well, I would
I think
hope.
if they're just looking for the match and we'll figure that out. I mean, I think.
Well, and
as a
also
court-
too, can't we take into account, I mean, this is on City of Arlington property, so hopefully they would want to be a part of this. If they could get the port in the county to work towards a grant, helping them put a Connect Oregon, that they could find the other 200,000. I mean, I know that's a good chunk of change, but for what you're getting, that's pretty small investment.
They might need a little help from an experienced city administrator, since they don't have any at this point.
Wonder where he would be.
Yeah, I don't want us to spin our wheels here when we're talking about property that neither one of us own. We need to make sure that we have the City of Arlington as a partner.
Oh, we will. I mean,
You're so confident. Look at your confidence.
It's not like that hasn't been in discussion before. It's just, they don't know. They don't know or don't, the ambition's not there. They need the help getting the push, but they're not going to be against it. I can promise you.
Well, I agree with Liz that a plan B would be good. I mean, this could be our number one priority, number two, but so I keep going back to an Olympic provisions. And so I know that's at Shetler Station, but if the port is going to take on the EDO, if we're going to take on that job, then no matter wherever the project is, whether it's on county-owned project or on City of Arlington project or state ground up here, I think that I would like to see that as number 3 or somewhere in there, because if Olympic Provisions is really serious about Shetler Station, it's county-owned property. I mean, at least we could get them as a county project to get in there. And I don't mean to be throwing a monkey wrench, because I'd really like to see the infrastructure at Willow Creek get done. If Water Bear doesn't get there, I think there's a well and there's some things to do there, but maybe we'll know more after November 3rd. I don't know, but I don't want us to throw out this other company just because it's not on port ground or in the City of Arlington proper, the way we're talking now.
Okay, so I can speak a little bit to Olympia provisions, and that is that right now they're just doing site surveys to find the property that they're looking for. So I have been talking to Ryan DeGroft, and I haven't gotten it yet, but he's going to send me what their site survey questions are, so that we can see if we can answer some of those questions and see if it's going to fit or not, if we have the water and the power and the wastewater and the things that they're going to need. So we are working on.
I'm sorry, can I ask what Olympia Provisions is? I've never even heard about them.
Premium charcuterie meats.
Yes, that is exactly what they are. And what they're trying to do is they partner with local farms because the meats that they use to produce their products, they like them to be organic. And they're looking, what they're looking for, as far as I can tell at this point, is a kill plant.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I know. And if you Google Olympia provisions, you get a better idea of who they are. But it is
Okay.
food products, yeah.
Thank you.
Kill plant's gonna be need some hefty wastewater treatment.
Yeah.
Yes, it will.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of, is that we may not have the size of facility, available to them and all the other things they're going to need. But we're gonna answer their questions and see where we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Sherry, have you had any, just talking about Shuttler, any conversations with Omega Morgan in regards to they're not getting near the business that they thought they were going to get off of these projects and not going to need the property that they were originally talking about?
I have not heard anything from Eric, no.
I think there's some concerns there, but they haven't landed the crane work they thought they were going to get.
Wow, okay.
So it sounds like maybe, I mean, I like Elizabeth's idea a lot about being very aggressive on getting this Connect Oregon grant, getting the city involved, and being able to pave that airport as our number one project with a backup. If we're not able to access that grant, then looking at Willow Creek. And by then we'll have a better idea of what Green Bear is thinking, looking at, is there something we need to do with that? I mean, I think that makes a lot of good sense. And then the Olympia provisions, sounds like they're pretty, they're still looking for their site and everything. That could be number 3 to make sure that we accommodate them if we need to.
Well, I trust Ryan, and he's telling me, we talked for quite a while, I think 45 minutes on the phone yesterday, and Olympia it's just Shuttlers. I mean, so we could sit there and wine and dine them all we want, you know what I mean? But they've got right now what they think they want. We the port, at least, I know, Catherine, you don't want us to slip on this and miss this opportunity, but we, the port, don't have anything to offer them for what they're looking. But it's not to say we can't still, court them and stuff. But the other thing is Painted Hills, though. We can't forget about that. I mean, that's the other thing. And that's the thing I talked to Ryan so much about yesterday, was basically, when Gabrielle got that sticker shock on the price of the building and the cold storage and stuff, I told, I was talking to Ryan about that, and he said, buddy, we got, that's what we do. We can give the port money to build her building, build Gabrielle's building. Just come at us with a number. And he knows the numbers. I mean, we talked about it. He knows the number. So I just, before we go running down that rabbit hole of Olympia, where they're just still doing site stuff, and they clearly, according to Ryan, only right now, as far as in Gilliam County is concerned, they're only interested in Shuttlers. Why are we even having this conversation? I mean, for you guys, the county needs to have it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's still part of a joint project, Jeff, no matter where you get it. It's still,
Exactly.
the joint funds are there, and what's
Yeah.
best for Gilliam County as a whole.
Yeah.
Well, I just didn't want you to think that we weren't trying to court them and say hey, you should come to our port properties instead of looking at Shuttler, I mean,
No, that's and Pat's right. That's where we have to look at it as a joint project, whether it's on port property or county property or city property. Jointly, we're going to figure out what we need to work on and where we need to put the money. So they're all good ideas. And I think
We can line them up any way we want. We need to have a primary, probably, and a secondary, and then move towards whatever looks like it's going to develop first, I guess, behind that.
Well,
behind that Connect Oregon grant, and whether or not we're successful with that.
Yeah,
where we're dependent on other companies, we might go through a whole lot of projects before we actually get one that sticks.
It's possible. You could be right, Deb. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the airport may be the first one because the grant deadline is soon. And
Yep,
so
yep.
we'll know whether that's an option or not, and then we can easily transition to the next in line, I think. And then my suggestion on the IGA then is that we just kind of put it in a holding pattern until we get a better sense of what the project is going to shake out to be. Because if it is just the paving project, that might, or the airport paving project, that might be a much simpler thing than, say, if we're doing infrastructure at Willow Creek, that's probably going to be a more detailed description of what everybody's doing. So it feels like maybe we should see if we have the Connect Oregon grant and then figure out, because at that point, it might just be a simple, hey, we're a partner with the city of Arlington and this money is going toward the match. And that's that.
So to write that grant, I'm guessing they're going to have some assurance of that money is available for a match. So I don't know how you want to write that into the IGA or the addendum. I mean, because if I'm hearing you right, Liz, you're saying, let's just wait and see how that shakes out, or do we want to have some sort of agreement so when the grant's written in the next month it's due, that money is set aside as a concrete match? Because if it's, I mean, I have enough grants that you can't just say, well, they're working on an agreement and we're going to get this money. They kind of need to know you have that money aside.
The city of Arlington, is that who you're talking about?
Yes.
Or at least just whoever's paying for the rest of the.
Yeah.
the match.
Whoever's putting in the grant, they need to be able to say that money is theirs and it's available as match.
So that's a good question, because I was sitting here thinking about that. If we're going to be partners with the city, the county, and the port in paving the airport, I would think the city has to apply for the grant because they own the property. Is that right?
I would think so.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we're going to have to give them a lot of help in that process to do that, I think. Pretty sure.
Well, I'm thinking it could either be the city or maybe joint applicants if they allow that as well.
Do they allow things like that with a grant like that?
You just have to check the parameters of the grant. I'm not sure, but
Well, if the grant is for marine, rail, and aviation.
It's probably before, because Gilliam County got a Connect grant for the rail spur years ago.
So the port could possibly get.
Well, but I don't know who, I'm guessing Gilliam County is the one that applied for that. So, I mean.
Well, and ironically, this Willow Creek project that failed was a Connect Oregon project.
Yeah, there you go.
So
Yeah, it was. That's right.
it was a joint project between, I don't know who was the initial applicant. I'd have to go back and review who actually submitted the application, whether it was us or whether it was the county. It wasn't us. None of us were here, but whether it was the county or you guys. But that was a joint project.
Yeah, I think what I've heard, it was actually the port that did the application, but
I don't remember. And I was on the port commission at that time, but I don't know. Laura was heavily involved in that whole process.
so one of the old IGAs says county and port applied for and received jointly as co-applicants
there
a
you go.
Connect Oregon grant. So-
There you go. Yeah.
Well,
So possibly the port and the city could apply as co-applicants.
yeah, you'd think they'd have to apply since they own the property,
Yeah.
but we could co-apply
Mhm.
and then figure out where that extra money's coming from.
But this is a really short timeline, you guys. How are we gonna, Arlington, is my understanding right now, doesn't even have staff.
Nope, they don't.
So Jeff, don't try to hide under your desk. We're all looking at you.
Well, and
I
that's
was
why-
on mute, but I'm right here. I ain't hiding. I ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, the city of Arlington might be the co-sponsor in name, but we're probably gonna have to do all the legwork on it.
We're gonna have to.
It sounds like it. Yeah.
But I mean, they're not even,
When do they meet next?
yeah, they don't meet till the week before the grant is due. I mean, I don't,
Well, I mean, the city of Arlington might be the co-sponsor in name, but we're probably gonna have to do all the legwork on it.
but I mean, when's their, I mean, they're not even, yeah, they don't meet till the week before the grant is due. I mean, I don't,
So do you feel like this timeline is just not, so they wouldn't meet until, they wouldn't meet until September 6th.
I think it's still worth a shot. I just think we're probably going to go to our number 2 option pretty quick.
When is the grant due?
The grant is not due until
Oh,
October
it's the
29th.
15th.
Okay,
It
okay,
opens
sorry.
the 15th, but it's not due until the 29th of October.
Then
That's a little bit better timeline.
yes, I had the 15th stuck in my head that it was due. So, yeah, I mean, that's more, as long as there's a commitment, I mean, from the city of Arlington at their first meeting in September. What are the chances? I mean.
So the city has, so yes, Pam resigned, but there is someone in the office. Taylor's in the office working, and she's doing as best she can to keep up with that. When it comes to dealing with anything grant related with the city, we could contact Mayor Buffton and with his approval, of course, get Brad Baird involved because he deals with all that grant sort of stuff. It wouldn't be Pam anyway, even if Pam were still there. So if we got the mayor's okay to get Brad involved, things could start happening.
Okay.
That's good. That's
Okay.
right. That's how it would work. Yep.
But before the submission of the grant, we're going to have something concrete about how that money can be spent is my,
Where all the match is coming from.
yeah, where the match is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, Ruben, would you want to just draft an addendum with the idea that if this falls through, then we'll revisit and write up a new addendum for Plan B? Does that, commissioners, does that sound okay with you guys? If we did a initial addendum A that we passed from both boards so that the city had documentation that there was match funds available. And then if the Connect Oregon grant falls through, we'd have to draft a new addendum basically for Plan B.
That makes sense to me because everything may change in a month. There may be something out there that we want to refocus on if it did fall through. So that would make sense.
So you guys don't want to put a Plan B on it right now, not knowing that you don't want to say that
I think Plan B would
infrastructure on
be
the Mesa or Willow Creek is Plan B, as long as it's accounted for.
I would rather say Plan B would be after this falls through and we reconvene and pick another project.
That's fine.
Well,
Yeah,
and I think there's some things that we don't know right now too. We don't know what Green Bear is going to do. Olympia Provisions is a little bit out there. And by October, we're going to have more information on where we're at with those other entities too.
Painted Hills.
Hills. We're going to have a better sense of where those projects are headed.
I guess I wasn't tying it to a project necessarily. I was tying it to port facilities.
Well, and I don't just, and maybe I'm just saying it wrong. Tying it to, we're going to have a better sense of what
infrastructure we do need in general.
Yeah, what infrastructure we do need based on what these groups are looking at and wanting to do. Then that's going to give us, like Elizabeth said before, having that punch list of what really needs to be done in terms of infrastructure. And if we know what's coming in and what they're doing, then really targeted infrastructure improvements that are needed, that are targeted towards who's coming in and what they want to do and what their needs are.
Yeah.
So.
Because right now, without anybody committing to any of those empty parcels, we don't know what we need to build.
We don't. But it sounds like we're going to get quite a bit of information in the next couple of months.
I don't think we necessarily want to tie it to the Mesa and then all of a sudden something comes along for Shetler that's going to move quicker and not be in a position we could help.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
So Ruben, do you want to sort of capture, since our council isn't here, what what that could look like in the addendum. Because to me, it sounds like both parties are going to be trying to be a partner to the city to get this Connect Oregon application in, and that the money then is used as a match.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but as we've been talking, I've been kind of doing this and I've been taking notes. So yeah, I have a kind of an outline of an exhibit A that would be the primary project is the airport, where the port would be obligated to pledge $547,900 towards a match to obtain a Connect Oregon grant to pave the airport runway. Port would agree to cooperate in application for the Connect Oregon grant and airport project if funding is in fact obtained, and work with the city to get the match and effectuate the project, with county obligations to cooperate in the application for the grant and accept this as the project. So I'll get that reworked. I have some written notes too that I'll feather in there and get something out.
okay.
Ruben, how do we want to talk to Mayor Buffton?
I think that we should, that's a good question. I don't know. I think maybe we should see if we have an agreement on what this exhibit A is going to look like. And then go to Mayor Buffton and just have a phone call and chat with him and play it by ear on that, because I'd like to have something to actually show him as far as what we're thinking and how that's going to weave the city in.
Okay.
I guess I look at it too is I don't particularly want to have an agreement written tied to his project if he all of a sudden says, nope, don't want to have any part of this.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So I'm wondering if we should approach him first to say,
this is what we're thinking about.
this is what we're thinking, just to get a preliminary, okay, yes, we're in, or yes, no, we're out, before we go through all this legal.
Just to make sure it's a held.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that too, because we don't know what he's thinking. So would it?
I'm good with that. I'm totally good with that. Actually, I assumed he would be going for it because they've been talking about paving the runway ever since I've been with the city.
Well, I would assume so too, but I just think if we just get an immediate yes, then go for it.
Yeah. So I was jumping ahead, but I'm good with that. So.
Do you
Well, that's where I was coming from, Ruben, too. This is kind of a no-brainer for the city.
Well,
Yeah.
You'll help them and they're going to jump on, but yeah.
Do you want me to talk to Mayor Buffton?
I think so. Just
I would, and then
even if it's just as a courtesy that this is
Yeah.
what we're talking about. Yeah.
well, and Leah, you could talk to him today and tell Ruben tomorrow
Go for it.
he's in, you know.
He's been trying to call me, and I finally had to say I'm on a phone call. I will call you back in a minute.
Oh, well, you might know by the time we meet at our 5 o'clock meeting. So
I might. That's very possible. Do you think that's okay, Ruben, for me to go ahead and discuss it with him?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay. So I do need some of the particulars. So Jeff, you said 2.4 million.
The runway, yeah.
And the county or the port has the
547,900.
And that's going to take around 720 to meet the match.
So we'd be short a couple 100,000.
She just took a quick test.
We'd like to see the city try to do that possible.
We'd like to see the city provide the gap that we have with the match.
But I wouldn't take a no there as a reason not to proceed with the project.
Well, also Brad Baird is constantly bird dogging grants. He might have some other grants that can piggyback in here on this.
Okay. Okay. All right. I can do that.
And then Leah, I think if you get,
Hey, Guys, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to let you know that 2.4 million came from Brad in the city. That was what they quoted us, just so you know. That's where we got the.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Good.
So Leah, I think if you get an initial go ahead from Jeff that they'd be on board, then if Ruben can send us, Ruben, if you can maybe just send it to me and I'll get it, I'll figure out which council we're going to send it to.
Okay.
And Leah, you've got Ruben's contact information?
Yep. Yes, I will connect up with Jeff before our 5 o'clock meeting.
Mission accomplished.
I think we did a really good job today, guys. I think we've got, not only did we come up with this airport paving project as being our first project, but I think that we also discussed a lot of things that are out there for potential infrastructure improvements that could be made to help with bringing economic development into the county as a whole. So I think this was really good. I'm really pleased with what we've done.
Sure.
So I just have one question because I want to do some research. What is the name of the company that is coming on September 3rd?
You keep
It's
saying
Green Bear Energy, all one word, GREENBEAR Energy.
Change their name?
And I'm sorry, what?
Did they change their name? I thought it was Water Bear.
No, Green Bear.
Green Bear, okay.
Thank
That's
you.
their
Heard
whole
both.
green,
I've
because they're a
heard both.
green energy company, you know.
Well,
the way
I
to
mean,
remember
it does
it.
make sense.
The whole one word thing is kind of weird though, Green Bear, but anyway. Justin Long is my contact, and he's the guy that sort of runs the show and calls the shots. And like I say, they've got this up and running in British Columbia, and one in what is it called, Mosier Lake.
Moses Lake.
Moses Lake, yeah, they got
Moses
another
Lake,
facility
Washington.
there. And so that's where he's actually going to be on Thursday the 2nd, and then he comes here on the 3rd to give a presentation for plans that they have.
What time is that, Jeff?
11 a.m. And I'm thinking we probably have it at the firehouse there in that meeting. You know what I mean? Because I reckon there's going to be a handful of people that want to come to that meeting. We could probably try to zoom it in as well if you want, but I just figured he's a busy guy, so I just figured instead of him just continuing to relay information to me that I relay to the powers that be here, let's just get everybody in the same room and let him give this presentation and then answer any questions that anyone may have at the time.
Being that Fair Friday, the Zoom, just so people can listen in if they want to, would be ideal, Jeff.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yep.
Gib. I'm turning you up here. I didn't hear you. What'd you say?
Sorry, I speak really low. With that being Fair Friday, a Zoom option to listen in would probably be
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. It's Fair Friday, and it's also Labor Day. Of course, he's Canadian, so he's like he said he goes that's your all's Labor Day, right? I said, so but that's when he can do it, and I think it's just beneficial. So yeah, we can. I mean, that's not a big deal. I just want to get as many people to the table who want to be a part of this meeting, who may have questions, and get it all. Because I mean, he's talking about executing an agreement here. Basically, if I get him legal descriptions of Willow Creek and stuff, he's talking about executing legal documents like ASAP. So I just want to get all. But one of his main concerns is, because I'm sure he's dealt with this in other areas, is he wants us all on the same page. And when I say us, I mean he's talking county, he's talking port, he's talking city. He doesn't want all of a sudden to dump all this energy and time and money to where all of a sudden we're hitting gridlock, right? And the city said they won't do this, or we won't. So that's why I want everybody at the table, and hopefully Mayor Buffton can come, because according to Justin, the mayor's been ignoring his calls for months now. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, hopefully we can get him to the table. Because that's how Justin and I even first came to be. Was he was hoping I could set up a meeting with Mayor Buffton, and then we just sort of, when he came out here the first time, and I took him all around the county and took him all around our facilities and stuff, our land and stuff, and that's when all of a sudden it just really took off,
Yeah.
Well, we can work on getting Jeff there at the table for that too. I can.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so I think we've got direction. Ruben, I'll hopefully have an answer for you at the 5 o'clock meeting.
Okay, sounds good.
Move forward and send out a draft.
That
Okay.
sounds awesome.
Great.
Thank you,
Perfect.
everyone. Very productive.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good job. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
See everyone else at 5.
So, yeah.
See ya.